Hi, Stephen Hand from Staccato in Hobart. There's been a bit of a kerfuffle going on at the moment in Western swordsmanship, or HEMA, about... It all started with a video on a site called Shadowversity. Now, I'm not going to discuss that video because it's been discussed at massive length. Rather, I want to talk about some thoughts that have come up in discussion of that video. Before I start, I want to talk very briefly about the video that my colleague Paul Wagner just did, and he talked about the importance of principles over techniques in historical European martial arts. And this very much mirrors that Paul and I think very alike on a lot of things. We've worked very closely in the past, written a book together, and this very much mirrors what I wrote some years ago in Principles and Teaching and Interpreting Historical Swordsmanship. And the article that I wrote was the importance of principles over techniques, and that's certainly expands on what Paul was talking about in his video, and really confirms what he was saying. And it looks at how you can take an art where the principles aren't explained explicitly and like tease the principles out, and every manual leaves some stuff out. What I specifically noted in that article was that manuscript 133, the oldest fencing manual, doesn't explicitly say to target the arm if the person doesn't cover it with the buckler. It assumes that you're going to cover the hand and the exposed arm with the buckler. Paul and I have actually been criticised for saying that you should target an exposed arm, and people have said, but that's not in the manual. And it's like, well, if somebody doesn't cover the arm with the buckler and you don't hit it, well, what's the point? The whole system just falls apart. There's got to be a reason to cover the arm with the buckler. There's plenty of downside. You can get your arms trapped together by when people press on the buckler. So there's got to be a reason to cover your arm with the buckler. And in this case, almost certainly people writing 700 years ago just said, look, it is so obvious that if you don't cover the arm with the buckler, it's going to get smacked. And so obviously that's a core principle. See an arm, hit an arm. Shouldn't be controversial. Unfortunately, in some circles it's become controversial. But basically, unless you do it, the whole system falls apart. Anyway, moving on to the recent debate. A few people have been talking about modern swordsmanship, and with the implication that modern swordsmanship can somehow improve on historical swordsmanship. And this is based on a really, really obvious fallacy. If we were going out and having real sword fights and our lives depended on it, as did the lives of the people doing it hundreds of years ago, then yes, given that we have modern sports coaching techniques, we have modern medicine, modern ideas of biomechanics, we probably could, within 2 or 3 generations, actually improve on what the old masters left it. But that's never going to happen. Okay, we're not going to go out and kill each other with swords. So arguing that we can somehow improve on what the old masters did is like saying we can go and play paintball and improve on modern infantry tactics. If you went and played paintball and then went and told a soldier that you'd read a couple of infantry manuals and used them to do paintball, and you'd found out a way to do it better, and you said that to somebody who'd actually been shot at in real combat, they would laugh at you. In fact, if you're lucky, they'd laugh at you. They may hit you. It's just ludicrous. You wouldn't do that. No one with half a brain would do that. And yet people who are otherwise quite intelligent will come up and suggest that we can improve on what the old masters did. Let's be frank. I've studied Western swordsmanship for 30 years. I have never been in a real sword fight. I have never seen a real sword fight. I don't know anyone doing this who has ever seen a real sword fight, or much less been in one. We are all playing. Some of us are playing pretty seriously, but we are all playing. Okay, that's just how it is. I don't want to be in a real sword fight. I've stuffed up so many times. I've gone, oh, God, if I'd done that in a real sword fight, I'd be dead. I don't want to do it, right? It doesn't strike me as a particularly pleasant thing to have to do. I mean, Fiore talks about being in, 5 duels as if it's, a really, really serious thing, and it is. I mean, unless you're a lot better than the other guys, fighting in a duel is a really, really, it's life or death. Are we seriously saying that people who have never actually done something can improve on what the people who did it came up with? We've never actually seen this thing happen, and yet we can improve on it. I'm afraid that's just so bizarre to me that I can't even think where to start in criticising it. The old masters did it for real. We don't. Therefore, when they say this is the way you should do it, if you do it any other way, you'll get killed, I believe them. Okay, were some masters better than other masters? Yeah, without doubt. How do we know? Well, we haven't ever seen them in action. Some of their techniques might be better suited to modern tournament play, and is that a reason for us to say, oh, look, Sweetenham's better than Saviolo, or Lichtenau's better than Fiore because it works better in modern tournaments? Modern tournaments are not real fighting. If they're done well, modern tournaments reward what we see in the manuals, and more importantly, will punish what we don't see in the manuals. The very worst thing we can do in a modern tournament situation is to allow double hits in any way to be rewarded. And anything that I have anything to do with double hits are not only not rewarded, but they're punished. Because a double hit means you're both dead. We have a saying in our school: both hit each other, 2 dead idiots. Right? If you get hit, you failed. Rule number 1 of sword fighting: don't get hit. Okay? So in situations like last year's World Broadsword Championship, Paul Wagner came out ahead, and as far as I can see, Paul fights exactly as close as he can to how we're told to in the manuals. And so we get a coming together of doing what they say in the manuals and what's rewarded in tournaments, and that's as it should be. But the tournaments still aren't real. Okay? Nothing we do is real, and let's face it, none of us really want to do what's real, and if you do, well, frankly, keep it to yourself. As I said in one of my books, if you're expecting someone to leap out from behind a bush with a sword and attack you when you're on the way home from a training, then you're in need of help that you won't find in this book. Okay? So, in closing, can we improve on the old masters? No, because they did it and we don't. Thanks for watching.